Whoever you are, wherever you are on your journey, you're welcome among us. Laura Wooten is going to give us an update on the week's plans, right?
Good morning. Thank you, Gay. My name is Laura Wooten, and I am one of the 7 hardworking, wonderful people on the MSC. Woo! And we've made it. We are very excited to commence with our candidating week and introduce you to our ministerial candidate, the Reverend Chris Rothbauer. Yay! Chris joins us this week for Candidating Week, where you will have a variety of opportunities to interact with them, starting with the potluck after service today. There's a schedule in your order of service that gives you different opportunities. Hopefully you can make it to at least one other one besides potluck. And please, if you have children, please plan on helping your child get a plate and bring them back to the sanctuary, where Reverend Chris will start in the sanctuary with families and children, and then the other folks without children here today can go in the fellowship hall, and they'll come in there afterwards to greet us all, talk to us all, have an opportunity for Q&A while we snack on lovely lunch. All right? So please, Jen, and also I want to say please plan on joining us next Sunday, where we will have a vote to call the Reverend Chris as our minister after the service. Thank you so much for being here today.
Our call to worship this morning is from the Reverend George Kimmich Beach. Everything begins on the verge of awareness. The dawn is not, and then is. Sleep is, and then is not. In between is the awakening. The passage of thin light between breaks open the day. The passage of thin sound between flows into the day. Too soon, the numbling rumble of traffic swells, the day glares. Let the soft haze hang across the row of morning. Wait upon the narrow moment, the first awareness of being in between. Live days and seasons on the thin edge of dawn in praise that every single thing begins now.
Our chalice lighting this morning is from Sean Trapp. Our chalice reminds us that the fire within ourselves is the same fire that illuminates the universe. It is our reminder that all is connected, even though the space of the void is vast, and our experience here is but a blip on the cosmic timeline. This flame is our promise that in the smallness of our short time on this earth, that we live intently and deeply with love for one another, with honesty and integrity, to be guided by rational thought and critical thinking, and with the sense of shared responsibility. For, as the late astronomer Carl Sagan reminded us, this pale blue dot is the only home we've ever known. Please join me in the affirmation, which is printed on the back of your order of service and projected on the screen. Love is the doctrine of our church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek harmony and freedom, to serve humanity in harmony with the earth, thus do we covenant together. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit to join us in singing our opening hymn, number 298 in the Gray Hymnal, Wake Now My Senses.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in all.
Horizon works to make a difference in our local community by partnering with MetroCrest Services. It's the custom here for people to bring shelf-stable items, diapers, personal care products, etc., for MetroCrest. So if you brought those items today, I'd invite you to pass them down to the aisle. And at this time, I'd like to invite children and the young at heart up for a time for all ages. And would you just sit over here on the floor? Oh, look, we have somebody young at heart. Thank you so much. Well, I just want to say good morning to everybody. And before we start talking today, I want us to see some photos. And while we're watching the photos, I'd like you to think about how the photos make you feel. I want you to think about what feelings, what emotions you have when you're viewing these pictures. And how does your body feel when they appear? And what are the thoughts you're having? So let's go ahead and look at some of the photos. Okay, those were some beautiful photos, huh? So I'd like to hear from you. Tell me about that. How did those photos make you feel? Go ahead. Oh, so this person says that the chrysalis reminds them of their mom's garden and how a chrysalis becomes a butterfly. Yeah, that's great. Go ahead. Oh, another thing about chrysalis? Yeah. Oh, wow, okay. Yeah, this is very, and I have to, you said something so beautiful, and I'm just gonna have to shorten it if it's okay. It's like the caterpillar starts out kind of ugly, and it goes into this chrysalis, and something beautiful comes out. And it's, I don't know, if I could say it's almost like a miracle. It's just wondrous, isn't it? I wondered if somebody in the seats had, one person wanted to tell me about the way those pictures made them feel, or what thoughts you had. A grown-up, perhaps, maybe would want to speak up. Oh, go ahead. The beauty of the earth. This person said, the beauty of the earth. So when I chose these pictures, I was hoping you would feel a feeling we call awe. A-W-E, awe. Can any of you tell me what awe is? Do you know what awe is? Okay, go ahead. Yeah, amazement, and it takes your breath away. Oh, yes, somebody in the seats. Go ahead. Oh, a happy kind of shock. I like that. We're going to find out. I bet Reverend Chris is going to tell you awe is very complicated. But yeah, definitely. And some of the other things people have said in the past, surprise, overwhelm, it's memorable. And so this is the official definition of awe. It's the feeling we get, like right here, in the presence of something magnificent or powerful that makes us feel wonder. That's one of the definitions, but awe is very complicated. It's one of the inspirations that inform our Unitarian Universalist spirituality, and it's also the first source of our Unitarian Universalist faith. And have you ever felt like that? I just want to know. I know you saw some pictures. I wondered if one of our young folks could tell us about a time they felt awe. Okay, well, maybe I'll ask somebody in the seats. We have I'll come to you second, okay? Thank you for participating. Would anybody else like to just mention a time when they felt awe? How about somebody in the seats? Okay, how about way back there?
So I once took a trip to the Grand Canyon.
Oh, the Grand Canyon.
The Grand Canyon, and a team of about 50 wild Mustangs came by.
Oh my gosh, did you all hear that? So she was in the Grand Canyon and 50 wild Mustangs came running by. That is so cool, yes. And what were you going to say?
Honestly, some places, well, the places that took, or like the most were actual places that I saw on the internet.
Oh, this person saying internet, things that they saw on the internet. Yeah, yeah. Because oftentimes we can't visit those places, but we can see things, right?
There was this gorgeous place in Iceland, and
Iceland.
there was this place where I forgot what it was called, but there were crystals and gems all over the beach, and the water turned neon light.
Oh, it was about a beach with crystals and gems, and it looked neon. Yeah, very neat.
Water actually did turn neon because of some sort of chemical substance, which I don't really understand.
Oh, yeah. Yes, and now we're talking about the science, about why it looks that way. Yes, science can make us feel awe. So thank you so much. And I'll tell you what, we can continue this discussion in the back in just a few minutes. So I can tell this subject really hits everyone, doesn't it? And I want to tell you one last thing. If you were here for our All Ages Earth Day service, we talked about the big blue marble, and I heard we were talking about the pale blue dot. So it was only 51 years ago that human beings actually saw the Earth as it is in outer space. And I will just remind you what it looks like by showing you this flag. This is a replication of the 1972 big blue marble that was taken by Apollo 8. And this is the first time human beings all over the Earth saw the Earth as it is. And the reason that I bring it up is because you know what's really cool about awe? It takes you out of yourself. It takes you out of your everyday life. And it informs our spirituality, and it makes us feel closer not only to the earth, but to the divine, the sacred, the mystery of life. And it makes us happier. And so I hope that you can experience awe very often. And now I think it's time for us to have an awesome time in the back. So thank you all for listening, and let's go ahead and sing you out to the class.
May your mind be open to new learning. May your lips bring truth into the world. May your heart know love and your hands do the work of justice as you go your way in peace. As you go your way in peace.
I'd like to invite Devin Box to come forward and talk with us just a few minutes about the Share the Plate for the month of June.
Thank you so much for having me today. I am so grateful for this opportunity to share with y'all more about the Trans Empowerment Coalition, and just to be in this space with y'all, and kind of on that theme of awe. I feel awe in this space. This is very much the most inclusive and open church space I've ever been in. So thank y'all for creating this space. So the Trans Empowerment Coalition is a coalition by and for trans people, centering our collective healing and liberation. And our core tenet is that community is how we heal, grow, and thrive. And so Tech was sort of born out of this vision of creating a space where we could experience both something restorative and sustainable. And I think for a lot of us in the trans community, a lot of our spaces, the few that we have focused on the harm that we experience, whether that's sharing our traumas with one another or fighting together against systems that try to oppress and eradicate us. And so we kind of dreamed of having this space where folks could experience mental, emotional, and spiritual rest, care, and safety. And we do that through some of our programming, and I'll share a little bit about that. But I just wanted to kind of share a little bit about kind of the groundwork behind that. So I'm also a therapist and a social worker, and so with that I kind of bring some of this understanding of what it takes to heal and to grow as humans. And when we are constantly in survival mode, when we're fight, flight, or fight all the time, everywhere, every day, we can't really dream of what is possible and create pathways for growth and liberation. And so the other piece of that is that community is really the number one thing for anybody, and how we build resilience, which is the thing that gets us through hard things. And so this space is so different because we're able to get out of that survival mode and just experience joy together and have fun and connect deeply. And so kind of our cornerstone programming is Gender Fam Night, which is our monthly social program for trans adults. And we have a lot of fun. We do a lot of different themes every month. And ultimately, it's the vessel for that deeper connection. We've had people who have been able to come to this event as themselves in public for the first time ever, which is incredible. And we've been able to support people in different stages of their journey, in connecting one another with the resources that are often so hard to find for our community, and helping one another just navigate the everyday barriers and obstacles to experiencing just the fullness of who we are. We were able to launch the Gender Affirming Clothing Fund, or GAC for short, which is super fun to say, this last month. And so that is open on a quarterly rolling basis. And so we're able to provide chest binders and gaffs for folks, for adults in the Dallas County area. We prioritize BIPOC applicants, and it's really a way to help folks feel safety in their body. And so that's a huge piece. We're also offering a name and gender marker correction workshop June 17th in partnership with the New Trans Movement in Dallas. And then we're super excited to launch our Gender Fam Teen Edition next month. So we'll have a space for our trans teens to come and feel supported and seen. And then we're hoping later this year to have, as we launch our Transcendental Coffee, which is another new program launching this month. It's just growing like crazy. We're hoping to be able to have some events where it's combined with our adults and our teens, because we really don't get that in our community. We're so isolated in our silos. So those are a few of the programs that we've got going on. We have just exploded in growth this last year. It just speaks to the need that our community has to have a space where we can just be with one another and feel that safety and care. Our work has been facilitated this year largely by a generous grant we got from Trans Kids and Families, who some of y'all may be familiar with. And we're looking forward to just continued growth next year. And so I just, again, want to thank y'all so much for showing up for our community in this way. And we're so grateful to receive your care and support. Thank y'all.
We give to remind ourselves how many gifts we have to offer. We give to remember that we are part of something bigger than ourselves. We give because we believe in music and sacred space. We give with the faith that together we have enough. The offering will now be joyfully given and received.
When I was a boy, each week, Sunday we would go to church, pay attention to the priest, and he would read the holy word and consecrate the holy bread, and everyone would kneel and bow. Today the only difference is that everything is holy now. Everything, everything, everything everything is holy now. When I was in Sunday school, we would learn about the time when Moses split the sea in two, and Jesus made the water wine. I remember feeling sad, the miracles didn't happen still, but now I can't keep track, 'cause everything's a miracle. Everything, everything, everything's a miracle. Wine from water is not so small, but an even better magic trick is that anything is here at all. So the challenging thing becomes not to look for miracles, but finding where there isn't one. When holy water was rare at best, could barely wet my fingertips. Now I have to hold my breath like I'm swimming in a sea of it. It used to be a world half there, heaven second rate, hand me down, but I walk it with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now. Everything, everything, everything is holy now. Read a questioning child's face to say it's not a testament. Well, that'd be very hard to say. See another new morning come, say it's not a sacrament. I tell you that it can't be done. This morning outside I stood, I saw a little red-winged bird shining like the burning bush and singing like a scripture verse. It made me want to bow my head. Could someone help me with the words? I don't think I remember now. It used to be a world half there, heaven second rate, hand me down, but I walk it with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now. Everything, everything, everything is holy now. Everything, everything, everything is holy now.
A reading from Carol Hepakowski. Those of us who call ourselves religious humanists have a strong reverence for life. Many of us experience a deep sense of awe before the mystery of life and death, those powers greater than ourselves. We share a respect for science and reason, and we are willing to live with ambiguity, to live without definitive answers. We share a deep concern about injustice and the fate of human life, indeed, of all life on this planet, our home in the universe. We identify with the human story, even as we recognize it as intimately tied to the story of the rest of the world. My environmentalism and my humanism are inextricably related. My humanism tells me that human life is important and worthy of respect and care. My environmentalism tells me that to be human is to be part of an interdependent cycle of all of life. My knowledge of today's world informs me that planet Earth, and thus human life, are in danger because of the threat of global warming. I want to see life, including human life, preserved and thriving on our planet. My environmental humanism compels me to work to reduce the causes of climate change, the human practices that threaten the survival of the earth.
We now take time to honor the sorrows and joys of this community, knowing that we are all interconnected and that what affects one of us affects all of us. An anonymous joy that I suspect is not shared by this one person, but I'll read it as awkwardly as it is. Welcome, Reverend Chris. And a joy for me as well to be here with you and to be in this community and get to know all of you this week. I'm looking so forward to it. And Minika shares a sorrow. Our hearts go out to those affected by a train derailment in India, where 300 people were killed and 800 were injured. We also light a candle this morning for all the joys and sorrows which have gone unspoken and reside only in our hearts. Will you please join me in the spirit of prayer or meditation in whatever way feels right with these words from Ling Cox. Spirit of life, great mystery, ancestor of the stars and the sun, you who embrace the vastness of space and us along with it, be with us today. Hold us in our worry, our exhaustion, our grief. Keep us close as we sit with our truth, whatever that may be. Lead us to rest in the quiet, to find solace and renewal in this time. You whose arms open with the spinning galaxies, help us to make room as you do for all that is. Open our hearts to our loved ones, our neighbors, the beings with whom we share this planet. Lead us to reach out to each other in compassion, turn towards one another in mercy, right relationship, and reconciliation. You who have seen the rising and setting of suns, of seasons, of civilizations, remind us of all that we have learned from the history of the world and from our own histories. Give us the courage to face our mistakes and to repair them whenever possible. Help us understand our independence, our gravitational relatedness with all of the other spinning lives around us, and lead us to treat those relationships with care. In this space filled with the people among us who shine like stars, this space filled with the sparkle of love and care, we give thanks for this moment to be together. May our senses be open to the beauty of this day, this season, this world. We continue our contemplation in silence. Blessed be. Will you please join me in our response?
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. Move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
A reading from Thomas Merton. In Louisville, at the corner of 4th and Walnut, in the center of the shopping district, I was suddenly overwhelmed with the realization that I loved all those people, that they were mine and I theirs, that we could not be alien to one another, even though we were total strangers. It was like waking from a dream of separateness, of spurious self-isolation in a special world, the world of renunciation and supposed holiness. The whole illusion of a separate, holy existence is a dream. Not that I question the reality of my vocation or my monastic life, but the conception of a separation from the world that we have in the monastery too easily presents itself as a complete illusion. The illusion that by making vows, we become a different species of being, pseudo-angels, spiritual people, people of interior life, what have you. Certainly, these traditional values are very real, but their reality is not of an order outside everyday existence in a contingent world, nor does it entitle me to despise the secular, though out of the world, we are in the same world as everybody else, the world of the bomb, the world of race hatred, the world of technology, the world of mass media, big business, revolution, and all the rest. We take a different attitude to all these things, for we belong to God. Yet so does everybody else belong to God. We just happen to be conscious of it and to make a profession out of this consciousness. But does that entitle us to consider ourselves different or even better than others? The whole idea is preposterous. This sense of liberation from an illusory difference was such a relief and such a joy to me that I almost laughed out loud. And I suppose my happiness could have taken form in the words, "Thank God. Thank God that I am like other men, that I am only one person among others." To think that for 16 or 17 years I have been taking seriously this pure illusion that is implicit in so much of our monastic thinking. It is a glorious destiny to be a member of the human race, though it is a race dedicated to many absurdities and one which makes many terrible mistakes. Yet, with all that, God himself glorified in becoming a member of the human race, a member of the human race. To think that such a commonplace realization should suddenly seem like news that one holds the winning ticket in a cosmic sweepstakes. I have the immense joy of being human, a member of a race in which God himself became incarnate. As if the sorrows and stupidities of the human condition could overwhelm me now that I realize that we all are. And if only anybody could realize this, but it cannot be explained. There is no way of telling people that they are all walking around shining like the sun.
I grew up in southern Indiana, just across this river from Louisville, Kentucky. I've been to that street corner where the Catholic monk Thomas Merton had his mystical experience. And in fact, I've been there many times, and I even worked there for a very short time. Today, it's not much of a shopping district, though my aunt vividly remembers going there as a girl because there were so many department stores there. But white flight meant that Louisville's downtown succumbed to crime and poverty for many years. As many cities have been doing today, lately, the area has undergone a revitalization in the last decade. Today, the corner of 4th and Walnut is the corner of 4th and Muhammad Ali, Walnut Street having changed its name to honor the boxer who hailed from the city but was mistreated in his own day. The south entrance to an expensive bar and restaurant complex, mostly geared towards wealthy tourists, is here. And most locals, me included, tend to avoid the area unless we have a very good reason to go. And yet this busy part of town, an area today mostly frequented by people seeking to forget themselves with alcohol and dancing to the night, is the only place I've encountered a national historic marker marking the site of a mystical experience. In a rather ordinary moment where Merton just wanted to get his chores over with so he could get back to his solitude and contemplation, he suddenly realized in a rather embodied and visceral way that he was connected to everyone around him. There was a sense of love that emerged in that moment, and the knowledge that he was connected to them and they him. To Merton, in the words of his own theology, he felt the presence of God in the world, the sacred in the present, and not some transcendent realm elsewhere. What Merton experienced that day in Louisville was a moment of awe, a feeling of wonder and respect as he experienced the reality of interconnection in the world. In that moment, he realized the truth that we are all connected to one another, that we all need each other, and that we're part of something bigger than ourselves. Whether you call that God or the spirit of life or the great mystery or even just the universe, we are part of something larger than ourselves. Now, Merton's experience of all that day on a random street corner in Louisville shaped his ministry for the rest of his life. It taught him that he can't just live for himself, and that being a holy person isn't about locking yourself in a hermitage while the world burns. Indeed, Merton's legacy as a reformer and a bridge builder, becoming one of a number of religious leaders in the 1950s and 1960s, was of a person willing to dialogue for the good of all humanity. It made him realize that spiritual life is not about making yourself feel good, but about using the knowledge of the truth of interdependence to work for the day when everybody feels good. And it all happened on a shopping district in the middle of a busy city. Dr. Jennifer Steller, assistant professor in the psychology department at the University of Toronto, says that awe makes us see ourselves as a small piece of something larger. Dr. Gordon suggests that, like Merton's realization that he was part of a larger community, awe helps us get along, making us realize that we're all in it together, and we do what we need to create social cohesion because we need each other. Awe is not just a Christian experience, though, or even a theistic experience. As my colleague, the Reverend Carol Hepikowski, points out in our first reading this morning, to stand before the mysteries of life and death, those things which we humans don't completely understand, is a way that many humanists experience the wonder that comes with life. And I argue that it is those who call themselves atheists who first taught me to experience awe. You see, awe often arises out of scientific, philosophic, and theological inquiry into the universe. In fact, I grew up in the age of Carl Sagan and Cosmos, and to read how he described the universe made me realize how small I was, but yet how connected and how vital to the running of the universe. Noted scientist and skeptic Michael Shermer once said that anything that generates a sense of awe may be a source of spirituality, and science does this in spades. And as Sagan put it, in its encounter with nature, science invariably elicits a sense of reverence and awe. The very act of understanding is celebrating of joining and merging, even if on a modest scale, with the magnificence of the cosmos. There is so much that we will never understand, and our ignorance in the face of the vastness of the universe is food for awe. Now, I hope that no matter who you are or what your life is, or whether you're a monotheist or a polytheist or an atheist or an agnostic or one of the many other ists, that you have at some point experienced awe. Whether it be a mountain sunset on a cloudless night, or the new beauty of a newborn baby, or a musical or artistic composition that leaves you silent at the way its composition brings out a hitherto unrecognized aspect of creativity. Awe can come in many forms, but what each has in common is that they bring the transcendent to life, reminding us that we're part of the interdependent web. And more than this, awe is how we make sense of the world. Dr. Amy Gordon, the principal research scientist at the Emotion, Health, and Psychophysiology Lab at the University of California, San Francisco, says that it's how we respond when we see something new or novel that doesn't fit our understanding of the world. We need awe in order to make meaning and discover our purpose in the world. And there's growing evidence that it's even good for our physical health. Dacher Keltner, a psychologist at the University of California, Berkeley, proposes that awe plays a critical role in the physical, mental, and emotional health. His research suggests it has tremendous health benefits, including calming down our nervous system and triggering the release of oxytocin, the love hormone that promotes trust and bonding. I believe that we're all born with infinite capacity towards awe and wonder. If you doubt this, watch a young child engaging in play as a way of getting to know the world around you. as well as the infinite questions that arise for them about their surroundings. Believe me, with children, no question is off limits. Somewhere along the way, though, our culture teaches us to stop engaging so much as a practical measure that was probably intended for survival. After all, if you were trying to survive and outrun a lion who wanted to eat you, it probably wasn't a good idea to stop and stare at the mountainside. But as a child, I remember reading books about science and about how the world and the universe works, and helped me realize how much there still is to learn. Much like Lauren, in my adult life, I've experienced awe in my travels. In March of 2022, I decided to take a trip to Peru, not just to see Machu Picchu, but for the notoriously difficult hike up the mountains of Huayna Picchu. The 40-minute trip up 750 ancient steps might not sound like much, which is why I asked Steve to put a photo up. But the narrow, sometimes exposed stoops lead to a climbing that's exhausting even for in-shape, able, and experienced climbers. But the physical element isn't even the most difficult. It's the psychological element that really gets people. The fact that there are few cables and railings, and a sense that a single misstep could lead to one falling into the valley 8,835 feet below. The downward hike back along that ancient path really gets people, and it's easy, even for those who have never experienced vertigo, to suddenly realize they have more fear than they thought. For those willing to engage in the arduous journey, a reward is waiting at the end. A breathtaking view of Machu Picchu, the Urubamba River, and the larger sacred valley below. And to say that I experienced awe, this feeling of respect and wonder at just how small I felt before the massiveness of the Peruvian mountainside, is an understatement. Huayna Picchu made me feel for a moment a part of something larger than myself, and it's an experience I'll likely remember for the rest of my life. The problem is that so many of us have forgotten our place in the world. Adult life and dominant culture often presents us with so many distractions that it's hard to slow down and simply be with the present, to experience a transcendent sense of being part of something larger than the everyday cares and concerns of the present. I saw this firsthand on Huayna Picchu. As I was going up, a young man was briskly walking down the stairs past me, and I realized that rather than basking in the beauty around him, or like me, wondering why the hell he decided to make that journey, he was talking on his cell phone. Now, I don't speak enough Spanish to know for sure what he was saying, but judging from his tone of voice and blank expression, I'm almost certain it wasn't about the experience of the present moment. He took an experience which was transcendent for me and many others and turned it into ordinary, missing the experience along the way. And honestly, that seems like a lonely way to live. To paraphrase Albert Einstein, the person who can no longer pause to wonder and stand in awe is as good as dead. Their eyes are closed. Even worse, as Reverend Hepikowski points out, a lack of awe can make us forget our place in the universe and how important our stewardship of it is. It becomes easier to simply take and take and take and take until nature has nothing left to give. This sort of attitude tends to take the world for granted, and rather than listening to the signals of imbalance that the ancestors once knew, it becomes possible to pretend the earth is simply a thing to be used for our exploitation. And once we let ourselves discard the landscapes, the plants, the animals that don't speak to us or inspire a sense of belonging, it becomes possible to discard other humans as well. Because when we're willing to exclude some from our circle of care, it's infinitely easier to create hierarchies of race, of gender, of sexuality, of class, of religion. In many ways, I believe that our current environmental and social crises come down to a lack of awe, an inability to recognize ourselves as belonging to the wider universe. But as environmental philosopher and activist Joanna Macy teaches, people can learn to care for the universe by helping them have experiences of awe and belonging in the wild. We need to remember that interdependence isn't just a fancy theory, but a deep truth, because as Carl Sagan puts it, we are made of star stuff. We are a way for the universe to know itself. And that's quite a statement from a man who probably considered himself an atheist. I think the world needs a great awakening of a different sort today. A reminder that we belong to each other and to the universe, and that we forget this at our own peril. I need all to remind me to care about the world and her many creatures, as I would my dearest friends, to figure out how to make sense of this mess we've gotten ourselves into, and through our forgetfulness. Now, like most emotional reactions, I don't believe it's possible to force awe to the surface. As much as I'd love to, I'm not seeing you all with light surrounding you as Thomas Merton did right now. I do, however, believe that it's eminently possible to create the conditions necessary to allow for moments of awe. For if we hope to survive the next decades, if we hope to bequeath a living planet to our children and grandchildren, I believe we must cultivate a sense that we belong to the earth, of our place in it, and that's what all is about at its core. Maybe that's part of how we recover our sense of awe. We never stop learning about the world, engaging with it, and developing a sense that there's so much ready to reveal itself. To realize that we are seeing reflections in the night sky of stars from millions of years ago, before humanity was even a possibility. That's awe-inspiring to me. I feel simultaneously small and grateful to be living in a universe where by some cosmic chance, I am exactly as I am, standing here in Carrollton, Texas, with you all this morning. In my experience, contemplative practices such as meditation, mindfulness, and prayer can help open us up to the vastness around us, and you don't even need much time. Wayne Dyer suggests that 5 minutes a day can be enough to change your entire outlook on life. He says, go outside and turn your attention to the many miracles around you, and it will inspire appreciation and gratitude and focus your life in awe. I've even known some people who were able to experience awe like Merton by doing everyday chores. Thich Nhat Hanh recommends dishwashing as an amazing way to practice being aware of the miracle of everyday life. And last time I preached that, you'd be surprised the number of people, especially men, who came up to me and said, "I love washing dishes, and you just told me why." Maybe that's the greatest key of all. Just to give ourselves some intentional time to simply be with the world. No agenda, no responsibilities, no nagging sense of needing to do something. And maybe those 5 minutes of time can add up, eventually enabling us to make space to appreciate the gifts that constantly surround us. And maybe if we can learn to see ourselves in the world, we might just be able to avert the looming disasters that threatens our world's very survival. And maybe, just maybe, we might just learn to be able to experience the sacredness of the universe in the most ordinary of times while doing chores in a busy shopping district, or the transcendent times climbing those mountains that we encounter in our lives. May it be so. Now, in a moment, I want to give you some background first. You're not probably used to getting background about a hymn. But in a moment, I'm going to invite you to join us in our closing hymn, number 1074 in the Teal hymnal, Turn the World Around. Now, if you've ever sang this hymn before, we're going to sing it a little bit differently today. Because thanks to Lauren and Steve, we found some unfortunate information that's come to light within the last month, that one of the words in it is actually a slur in Jamaica. The songwriter never intended it that way. He just didn't do enough research to find out what the word was. So we're going to try out something new today. And if it goes well, who knows? Maybe we just rewrote this hymn so that it's still usable. So where you see that foreign-sounding word that starts with the letter A, we're going to insert, and so it goes. In the same tempo, in the same tune and melody, and it will be on the screen. You only have to worry about it if you're using a hymnal. So please rise in body or in spirit and join us in singing our closing hymn.
Fire make the sunlight turn the world around. Heart is of the river, body is the mountain. It is the sunlight turn the world around. We are of the Spirit, truly of the Spirit. Only can the Spirit turn the world around.
One more thing. Thank you to Deborah for the alternative wording.
We extinguish this flame, but not our commitment to welcome radically, love boldly, grow spiritually, and serve courageously. This we do because we envision a beloved community filled with compassion, helping all to thrive in a just world. Okay, we have a busy day, so we have one more announcement before we conclude. We will be gathering for potluck. Hope everyone will join us. If you didn't have an opportunity to bring something, that's fine. There's always plenty for everyone. I do have some instructions for people with children from Lauren, so let me read those real quickly for you. Ages 5 and younger, please bring your child's lunch to the child care or nursery. Ages 6 to 10, children's programming will conclude by 11:30. Take your children through the potluck line and drop them off for childcare with their potluck lunch in room S2, the blue classroom. Ages 11 plus, youth can hang out in the blue classroom after the service or attend the focus groups. There's actually going to be an area set up in the sanctuary, I believe, for families. So if you'd like to have your children join you, I think Reverend Chris will join you for a short while at the beginning of our meal, and then we'll migrate elsewhere. Is that correct? So anyway, join us for lunch.
Our benediction is by Mary Eads. Like the cosmic dust following the great Parasite meteor, we are living in the remnants of time and all that has come to pass. In its wake, briefly shining lights on the way to eternity. We are only visible to the naked eye for an instant. Take this moment to shine like the stardust you are. May the light of our time on earth shine to bless the world and each other. Shine, shine, shine. Amen. Blessed be, and go in peace.